I'd like to welcome you and thank you all for participating in Broward County's first remote jury selection. None of us are in the courthouse. All of us are participating electronically over the Zoom platform. I imagine that most of us are home, but all of us are part of a truly historical moment in Broward County's history. The courts have been working throughout the pandemic. You all should know that every judge has been handling his or her caseload, except for jury trials, since we have closed down the physical building. The backlog that you would think that we might have had or could have had really isn't in existence to the degree that we worried about, because we are able to do the remote hearings that we're doing. There has been tremendous cooperation between the court reporters, the judges, the attorneys, the clerks, the bailiffs, all supporting staff. And obviously, as we have seen this morning, and what was a concern to us as well, there has been tremendous cooperation and support from you, the jury, and you, the community, and we all thank you for that. So while the coronavirus might have closed down our court building, it has not closed down the work that we are doing, and we will continue to find the best method. However, as you all are probably aware, the fundamental right to a jury trial that was guaranteed by our Constitution has suffered a hard blow through this pandemic. And courts throughout the country are grappling with ways to balance the right of an individual to confront his or her witnesses or accusers through a public trial by a jury of their peers, and balance it with the needs to protect the health and the safety of all those in the community by following the CDC guidelines. We have to get it right. It is critical to our judicial system to get back all of the constitutional rights that we are afforded. So today, after many practice sessions, and I know that some things have happened this morning that you might not think we've had practice sessions, but we have summoned you, the public, to come in and participate in the first remote voir dire. Your feedback and your participation will be absolutely tremendous steps towards reestablishing our constitutional rights. So on behalf of myself, Judge Patty Englander-Henning, Chief Judge Jack Tudor, all the judges in the circuit, the Fort Lauderdale chapter of the American Board of Trial Advocates, and Kathy Bernstein, who is the Jury Operations Manager, I sincerely thank you for your service, and I'm ready to begin with the remote jury selection. Now, I do have some preliminary instructions to give you. It's a lot of don'ts. So I apologize for that, but it is critical that you follow these instructions that I'm about to give you. Again, do not take any photos, screenshots, or audio of the trial. You would be surprised how easy it is for us to find out that that's been done. I know you would think that it wouldn't happen, but it does, and it has, and there's case law on it of jurors who haven't followed that instruction and the problems that it's caused. So please follow that. No one else is permitted in your presence during the trial, these proceedings. It's as if you were in the courtroom. You cannot have anybody there, and no one is allowed to talk to you at all during the trial proceedings. Any electronic device that you have, other than what is being used for this proceeding, I'd ask you to please shut off. So if you have an additional cell phone, if you've got a different computer or something of that basis, an iPad, please make sure that those are off. I remind you again, we must see your faces. Don't walk away from the screen without permission. Please keep your microphones on mute. That not only will make it easier for you to hear the individual who's speaking, but you know, my dog has become a barking bailiff, as I call her. And so you may have noises around the house or out on the street or something of that nature that will interfere with the proceedings. So if you stay mute, that will be a big help for everybody. You can take notes if you would like to take notes. Please feel free to do that. In a regular trial, you're permitted to take notes. And it may help even if you want to do that for discussions with the question and answer that we will do later. You cannot use any device to research any part of this case. You can't look up the attorneys, you can't look up the parties, you can't look me up, you can't look up any terms that some attorney may be using that you're not quite sure that you understand. You can't Google, you can't ask Siri, you can't ask Alexa, and you can't phone a friend. Those are the rules in any trial, and it is of utmost importance when we cannot physically be with you. If that happens, if we know that that rule has not been filed, I will probably have to declare a mistrial. What that means, the trial comes to a complete stop, that the lawyers and the parties and the court are required to another day do another trial with the expense and time that that consumes. So I know nobody wants to violate that and cause that to happen. And the law also permits there to be some penalties to a juror who may willingly cause that mistrial. So please be careful with that. Again, do not research. I'm going to assure you, if the answer to a trial was on Google or if Siri could give it to us, we would not have gotten you all here to give up your time in order for there to be a trial in the matter. Only you can decide the issues in the case and come to the answer. Don't let anybody say anything to you or about the case. Also, please no tweeting, no texting, no blogging, no emailing, no chatting, no WhatsApping. And if I've left anything out, it's only because my children have gotten to the age where they don't do those things anymore, the newer things anymore. But if you know of other things, don't do it, please. Okay. Now let me explain voir dire a little bit. I think it'll be helpful if you understand who's in the courtroom. We have the parties, which are the plaintiff and defendant. The plaintiff is the person who files the lawsuit. The defendant is the person who has been sued. We have attorneys for the plaintiff and the defendant, and what I would like them to do right now, if they would please, is introduce themselves to the jurors, and please tell them as well who you represent.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dan Harwin. I represent the plaintiff, Charles Chipkin.
Morning, Brent Reitman. I also represent the plaintiff.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Anthony Quackenbush, and I represent the defendant, Galaxy Gravel.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Eric Rosen, and I also represent the defendant, Galaxy Gravel.
Thank you. Were you all able to hear them? Yes? Okay.
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, we also have in the courtroom the bailiff, the clerk, the tech, and the all-time hero of the 17th Circuit, who keeps us all tech savvy. And if he can do that to me, he can do it to anybody. Just ask him. And that's Mr. Orlando Garcia, who's been walking us through this morning's proceeding.
Hi, everyone. Actually, Judge, before we keep going, perfect timing. I've renamed everybody that's a juror to a number. It'll be in order of alphabetical. I'm actually going to send out the email. So it's 1 through 23. So everybody just make sure you know your number. So if you take a second and look on screen, you'll see your name and your number. The attorneys are going to be calling you by your number. Everybody sees their number on the juror list. Okay. Anybody not see their number from the jury? All right, great. All yours.
Okay. All right. We are entering the phase called voir dire. That means to speak the truth. And that is all that we ask you jurors to do. I'm going to be asking you some questions, and the attorneys are going to be asking you some questions, and there is no wrong answer to any question that you get asked, so long as the answer that you give is an honest and an accurate one. The purpose of voir dire is to obtain 6 individuals who can fairly and impartially try the case without being influenced by some special experience they may have had, some special knowledge that they may have, or some special opinions that they may hold. The questions asked by us are not meant to embarrass you in any way. If you have any difficulty with the question that's asked of you, or you get worried about answering it in the presence of other jurors, please let me know, and we will arrange to take you out into what's called now a breakout room. It used to be sidebar. I used to have you step 4 steps away from the jury so that the attorneys and I could speak privately with you, with the court reporter. And now we'll have Orlando place us into a breakout room if there is any question that you feel uncomfortable answering in front of the others or on video. Voir dire purpose is to obtain 6 individuals who can fairly and impartially try the case. The attorneys will have a right to excuse most of the jurors because we are going to look for a panel of 6. If you are challenged or excused, please don't feel that your honesty or your integrity has been put in issue. That is not the case. Nothing is to say that you couldn't be an excellent juror in this case or in another one if there was another trial proceeding here today. But for some reason, and there are peremptory challenges as they're called, and the court's not even made aware of what that reason is, that they prefer that you not be here this morning to try the case. I can give you a brief description of the case so you'll understand a little bit about what's going on. This is a civil case. The plaintiff is seeking damages. In a civil case, the burden of proof is by the preponderance of the evidence or the greater weight of the evidence. It is not a criminal trial, which is perhaps what you all are more familiar with. And so where the burden of proof is by above and beyond the exclusion of every reasonable doubt. Again, here, the burden of proof is by the preponderance of the evidence. And I'm sure the attorneys may briefly touch on that with you shortly. The plaintiff in this case, and as I told you, that's the person who is suing, is Charles Chip King. And he claims he was injured while he was riding on a motocross bike on the property who's owned by the defendant, Galaxy Gravel. Now, the plaintiff claims he was injured as a result of the negligence of the defendant and is claiming damages from that negligence. The defendant denies all of these claims and maintains that the plaintiff's actions were the sole cause of his injuries. And he also claims that the plaintiff was trespassing on his property. The incident took place on October 31st, 2018 at Galaxy Gravel, which is located at Nob Hill and Broward Boulevard in Plantation. Are any of you familiar with that location? Okay, all right. Juror number 21, Ms. Yesbeck, how are you familiar with that?
If he was trespassing, he should be, like, he couldn't sue.
Okay, all right, there's going to be questions on that. I just want to know if you're familiar with Nob Hill and Broward.
I know that area. I live in Plantation. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Was it juror number 12? Was your hand up? Okay, unmute yourself, please, and tell me how you're familiar with the area.
Well, I live in Pembroke Pines, and if I'm on the 595, I actually get off Nob Hill, so I'm familiar with the area.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, can I see by a show of hands, how many of you have ever served on a jury before? Okay, number of hands are going up. Okay, I know that you've never served on one like this. I know that we are all in this together for a first time. So if anybody is nervous or hesitant, know that everybody is. We're all hoping that this is able to work in the manner that it does in the courthouse itself. I'd like to know where everybody is physically located now. And what I mean by that, are you home? Are you in a quiet room, in an office? Are you in a different location? And I think that what I would like to do, since you know your numbers, if you would just start with juror number 1 and tell us where you're located.
I'm at home in Sunrise, Florida.
Okay, thank you.
I'm home in Pembroke Pines.
I'm home in Coral Springs.
I'm home in Lauderdale Lakes.
Okay, let me ask this then. Is there anybody who's not home? Nobody's at work or went to find a quiet place? Okay, good. Okay. Well, like the woman who had 3 children who were trying to use the computer as well at home. Sometimes whether you go over to the library, go to the library and set up there would be an example. If you knew that there was well, that's one example, a store of some sort that you could sit outside if you felt comfortable doing that now and wanted to do that. So there are other places. Remote is remote. So that's why I asked about that question. Okay. Are there any distractions in the house that I need to know about? Any children, any spouses, any pets? Okay. Are you able, if we take a break, to either take those distractions away from you or out of the room that you're in? Does anybody have a problem doing that? Okay.
No.
Juror number 21, Ms. Yesbeck. What
I have
difficulty?
construction.
What?
I have construction in my house going on right now.
Okay.
That will be the background noise.
Okay. Well, and you've kept yourself muted, so we haven't been able to hear that. Okay, good. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Number 12, Ms. Maynard.
I have 2 kids, a 6 and a 5-year-old. Right now they're watching a movie, so you can't hear them. But I don't know, like, once the movie's done, if they're gonna want like breakfast or something. But right now they're okay.
Okay, thank you.
I have a dog. She might from time to time, and I'm in an open room house, so I can't lock her anywhere.
Okay. All right.
But I'll stay muted. And
Okay,
listen.
thank you. Are there any COVID-related concerns that you all have? Is there anybody here that either knows anybody with the virus, works with anybody who may have has the virus, or that's a job to take care of individuals with the virus?
Yes.
Okay. Number 3, Miss, the name doesn't go through.
Joanne Connolly.
Okay, Miss Connolly, what is your connection with it?
Well, several people at work tested positive.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes, sir, Mr. Baser.
I know 3 people who have passed away from it.
I'm sorry. Anyone else? Okay.
Well, I take care of them.
Is it de Montignac?
Yeah, the Montagnat. No, I work in the hospital, so I'm always in fear, and I deal with, I'm very close to it, so.
Okay. Anybody else?
Judge Patty Hammond?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. McDowell?
Robin. Yes. I'm here in Hollywood, Florida. And I would like to know, could I go to the recess? Since I don't know when we're having break, I have to go to the recess. To the restroom?
You need to take a break?
Yeah, I didn't go to the restroom.
Okay, all right. You know, you all have been sitting there. It's been almost 2 hours that you've been here. It's probably a good time for a stretch break, and I will tell anybody at any time, if you need one, guarantee you someone else does, and let's take the break. Okay. In a moment, I'm going to allow the attorneys to ask the questions of you. I do want you to know that during the break, if you all want to have a cup of coffee or a cold drink or a bottle of water by you, that's absolutely fine. I have no difficulty with that, no problem with that, and think you'll be more comfortable with that. So at this time, I'm going to allow the attorneys to ask questions of you, and I just ask that you give them the same close attention that you were kind enough to give to me. And whenever plaintiff's counsel is ready, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court. Good morning, everyone. I introduced myself before. Good morning. Thank you. My name is Dan Harwin, along with Brent Reitman. We have the privilege of representing Charles Chip King. I want to say, and I want to echo what Judge Henning said, your service here today is incredibly appreciated. During very, very difficult times where we all have tremendous amount of concerns, all of you answered the call. And that's so incredibly important as it relates to our civic duty. So on behalf of the civil justice system, everyone involved here today, I want to sincerely thank you very, very much for your time. The first question I have for you is, how many of you are actually excited to be here today? All right. Well, I will tell you, when we do this in the real courtroom, we're lucky if we get 1 or 2 hands at most. So the fact that we got multiple hands, I think, is certainly an encouraging sign of things to come. I know this was discussed a little bit by Judge Henning, but let me start by asking from a technology perspective. Can you raise your hand? Does anyone have any concerns about the technology or their Wi-Fi or any, connectivity issues at all? All right, I see no hands. That's terrific. Let me ask you, obviously we all know we're here on Zoom today. By a show of hands, how many of you have used the Zoom platform, either personal or for work prior to this? Okay, and it looks like that's a pretty decent majority. Are there any of you that just knowing what Zoom is and how it's used, are there any of you, and raise your hands if so, that you have concerns about the Zoom platform, whether it be security issues or internet issues, or is there anyone here that has any concerns? Okay, I see Mr. Smith. Can you tell me what your concerns are, please?
I've just never been a fan of the video platforms, FaceTime, none of this stuff. I'm more of an in-person type of person.
Okay, and I think I saw you raised your hand a little bit when Judge Henning raised the issue of this being recorded. Do you think the fact that you have some concerns about this Zoom platform or about being on video, is that going to in any way affect your ability to serve as a juror in this case?
It shouldn't.
Okay, and you think that you can listen to the evidence and follow the instructions as they're given to you by the judge?
I would hope so.
Okay. I know I saw a couple other hands. Mr. Newell, did I see your hand up?
Yes, sir.
Okay, tell me about your concerns, please.
Yeah, it's more the general security issues with Zoom specifically. I'm assuming, you guys are all professionals, you've taken that into account, but it definitely wouldn't affect my judgment on a case. It's just more the platform.
Okay, and you read my mind. You knew exactly what I was going to ask. You've seen that Zoom has done a lot to correct those security issues. Have you seen that in the news?
Yeah, obviously they've been doing what they can over the last couple of months as it's become a bigger issue. But there's still always concerns with technology in general, but specifically Zoom's had their issues in the last few months.
Okay, and you think that you can be fair and listen to the evidence even though you have some concerns about Zoom and the security issues?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Was there any other hands up as it relates to any concerns about the Zoom platform? Okay, I see no hands. Judge Henning touched upon it, and I do want to explore it a bit more. Is there anyone that didn't mention it before that has concerns about distractions, whether it be multiple children at home, dogs, construction, things of that nature? All right, and I think juror number 21, you raised the fact that you have some construction at home, right?
Yes.
Okay, and so far we haven't heard anything, which I think is great, and I know you've been on mute. Do you
Yes.
think even with that construction going on that you're going to be able to listen to the evidence, listen to the testimony and give it your full attention?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And Miss, I believe Miss Maynard, did you raise your hand?
Yes.
Okay, tell me what concerns you have as it relates to distractions.
Like I said, I do have two kids, a 6-year-old and a 5-year-old. They're okay now, but then again, kids are unpredictable. They might be fine for 1 minute and then they're asking you, can you change the channel or something? So just
I have 3 of my own here, so I completely understand. Have you been on Zoom before with the kids at home?
yeah, for their school, like my daughter for her preschool and my son for his kindergarten class.
Is there anyone else at home that can help you with the children while we're in this trial?
My husband is actually gonna take them out like on a car ride. I mean, it's really limited on the things that we can do right now.
Of course.
So yeah, he's been okay about that. Okay, mommy. So yeah, they're going on a car ride.
Okay, and we appreciate that. Do you think that you can listen to the evidence even though your kids may be there and may from time to time interrupt and be a little distracting, or do you think that's going to be a problem for you?
Well, right now it won't be a problem, but then again, I don't know later on.
Because kids are unpredictable, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I do appreciate your honesty, and to all of you, there are no wrong answers here today. We really only want to know the truth so that we can pick the best jury for this particular case. By a show of hands, has anyone here, have you heard about in the news trials taking place on Zoom, whether it be in South Florida or around the country? Has anyone seen or heard that at all? No one. Okay. What I want to sort of go through the panel, and my question is just generally, what are your thoughts about Zoom trials? Mr. Baser, can you tell me, do you have any thoughts about Zoom trials?
Probably comes in handy since you can't have close contact.
Right. And would you agree that because we have this platform that it allows us to keep the civil justice system moving while we all struggle through this pandemic?
Definitely, yes.
Okay. And do you have any concerns about Zoom trials at all? Is there anything that comes to mind when I ask you that question?
No, nothing.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Castillo, any concerns at all from your end?
No.
And Ms. Connolly, any concerns?
No, no.
Miss, is it DeMontag?
The Montenac?
Yes,
No.
ma'am. Okay, and Mr., is it Doptoglan?
The name is Doptoglan and no concerns.
Okay, and my apologies. I will probably get some of your names wrong, and I apologize in advance. Well, let me see if I can short circuit it. Is there anyone at all on this panel, and please raise your hands, that has any concerns whatsoever about using Zoom to conduct a trial? I see no hands. As a sworn juror, does everyone feel that they can serve in the same capacity in this platform as they could if this were a live trial? Is there anyone that disagrees with that? Is there anyone that says, you know, if I'm not there live and in person, I'm just not sure that I could do my sworn duty as a juror? That's terrific. I see no hands. Is there anyone that has any concerns about examining evidence? For instance, if there are going to be photographs that are shown, or if there are going to be graphs or maps or anything of that nature, does that raise any concern with any of you in evaluating that evidence? No one at all. Wow, that's terrific. I'm going to go through the panel on this question, and this is an important one, which relates to.
Juror number 14 had his hand up. Mr. Newell did.
Oh, thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Newell, my apologies. You have to get used to the squares and them moving. Tell me your thoughts. It's important. I'm glad that you're raising them.
So it's a question more than a concern.
Okay.
How would documentation be handled?
Sure. So if we have the ability to either send it to you or have you view it on the computer, sometimes via share screen, so that you could see the photos, you could see any graphs or any of the evidence, do you think that you could still review it and judge it in the same way as if you were there live?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And I appreciate you raising that. It's important. And for anyone that has any questions about that, please make sure to raise it because it's important. We want to know any concerns. Mr. Revel, by all means, please.
I think if it's clear enough on the screen, it shouldn't be a problem.
Okay, so if you can see it on, and let me ask you, what kind of computer are you using?
HP desktop.
Okay, and so if we can share it on the screen and you could see it just as you're seeing me now, do you think that would suffice for you to be able to weigh the evidence and to determine its credibility?
That would be perfectly fine.
Okay, thank you for that. Did I miss any other hands? Anyone else want to address that issue? Okay, I see no hands. Is there anyone that feels that because they're a juror in this trial on Zoom, that somehow it makes the case less important? Is there anyone that feels that way in any way, shape, or form? I see no hands. Does everyone agree that this is just as an important a case just because it's done on Zoom as if you were live in the courtroom? Does everyone agree that they're going to weigh the credibility of witnesses the same if it's on Zoom as if they were in the courtroom? Does anyone have any concerns about that? Whether if they can't see someone's full body language or they can't see exactly the entire person because they're not live, that somehow they're concerned about weighing the credibility of that witness? Raise your hands, please, if anyone has any concern in that regard. Mr. Juror number 22, Mr. Giovino, tell me, please.
I kind of just feel like it might be easier to lie than just staring at a computer screen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, tell me more. Why do you think that?
Well, if you don't have all these, like if all these people on the screen right here were actually in this room, you know, you might feel a little pressure. You might get a little sweaty. You would act differently than, like I'm in my PJs, I'm sitting in this chair and I'm totally comfortable sitting in the courtroom right now. You know what I'm saying?
Well, we can agree if you're in the courtroom, you certainly wouldn't be in your PJs, right?
This is correct.
All right. And is that a concern for you because you're not there live, that perhaps your ability to judge the credibility or the honesty of a witness, that might affect your judgment in that regard?
It depends on the circumstance, but yeah, a little bit.
Okay. And have you served as a juror before?
No.
All right. And if the judge were to instruct you that you are to weigh the credibility via this platform and do the very best you can, would you agree to do that?
Yeah, I would do that.
Okay. And is there anyone that feels that this case may be less important because this is done on Zoom? Anyone that feels that way in any way? All right, I see no hands. So, Your Honor, and Judge Henning touched upon it, that we have alleged and we will prove that Galaxy Gravel knew that motorbike riders like my client used the Galaxy Gravel pits on a regular basis and that they failed to warn of a known dangerous condition. Just hearing those facts alone, just knowing that, is there anyone that feels that perhaps this is not the right case for them? Anyone at all? Okay, I see no hands. Is Is there anyone that, just based upon the fact that they know that my client was injured on someone else's property, just knowing that that occurred, is there anyone that feels that they could not hold another property owner responsible under those circumstances? Ms. Yesbeck, 21, I know you had raised that before. Tell me your concerns in that regard.
My sister-in-law fell in front of a grocery store and hurt her knee, and they said she wasn't wearing the right shoes. So that kind of hits home. She fell in front of a bunch of people, and I think being in someone's property, like if you're not supposed to be there, like your client, they shouldn't be there. They shouldn't hold the other person responsible.
Did your sister bring a lawsuit because of that fall?
Yes.
And it
But
sounds to me, was there a recovery? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, she sued, but nothing came out of it, that she let it go because
Okay,
she wasn't injured too much.
And it sounds like you were a little troubled about that outcome, just basically what took place.
Sorry for the noise. Yeah.
There's that construction. That's okay. We knew we were going to get it
I'm
eventually.
so sorry.
That's okay. How long is the construction? Is it going to be going on all day today? Okay. And
It was supposed to be done yesterday.
fair enough. It sounds like you don't have any control over that, right?
No.
Okay. And it certainly sounds like if that construction continues this way, it'll affect your ability to hear me and the evidence and the testimony. Would that be fair?
No.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Yesbeck. I appreciate your honesty. One of the things, oh, go ahead, juror number 5. Yes, please.
Yes, question. On that property, is there no trespassing sign on there?
Well, we can't get too much into the evidence in the case, and you're going to hear that. But let me ask you this. If we prove that the trespassing or no trespassing signs were inadequate, is that something that you could still find for my client if we proved our case in that regard?
Possibly.
Well, possibly, and I appreciate that. And here's the best analogy I can give you. If you were getting on a plane and you looked at the pilot as you were getting on and you asked the pilot, hey, are you going to be able to land this plane? And the pilot said, possibly, how would that make you feel?
Pretty concerned for my safety.
Sure, fair, and that rightfully so. Do you think because you have some concerns in that regard that maybe the defendant would have even a slight advantage going into the trial?
Well, let me ask you this. What's the definition of a properly advertised no trespassing sign and a not properly advertised no trespassing sign? Are we going by size? Are we going obstructed view? What are we talking about here?
Sure, and those are good points, and we're pretty limited as to what we can get into as the facts of the case. My question was a little bit different, though. It sounds to me that just because you have some of these feelings that maybe the defendant would have a slight advantage because you feel this way about trespassing signs. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I would.
Okay, thank you for your honesty. I appreciate it. Does anyone have any concerns? Oh, yes, juror 15, please. Thank you.
Yes, I think that it's not only to put a trespassing sign for people not to come in. If there should be a way to stop the person from coming in. If you don't do that and the person was able to get in, now you cannot say that he shouldn't be there. It's your fault that the person is in. This is how I feel. I don't know. It's like I have dogs, but I put a sign to say, be aware of dogs. But I let my dogs out and someone is passing by and get hurt by the dogs. I am wrong in this side because I should be able to stop my dogs from hurting the person, I think.
And I appreciate that. I understand what you're saying. You're saying they should put something up, I think if I understood you correctly, like a gate or a fence surrounding the property, like the four walls of your home.
Yes, I think so. I think so.
Okay, understood. Is there anyone that has any concerns because they're not going to be able to see my client in person, because they're not going to be able to evaluate them live, that they may have some concerns in any way evaluating the damages in this case? Please raise your hand if that's a concern for you. Juror number 18, Mr. Smith.
So in this proceeding, we're not going to get to see either of the defendant or the any of that stuff.
Well, you wouldn't see them in person. So in a live trial, if we're not in the middle of a pandemic, you would be there in the courtroom, being able to look at them and evaluate them. Obviously, you're only going to be able to see him on a very small screen. Does that raise any concerns for you?
No.
Okay. I thought I saw, was there another hand up on that issue? Okay, I see no hands.
It wasn't for that issue, hello?
Yes.
Well, you guys, I do have connection error issues. I'm actually using the hotspot from my home, well, my phone, and then I can't really hear you guys. You're breaking up.
Okay, thank you. I think Mr. Lavoie, I'm not sure. All right, so you're having some connectivity issues. I understand that and I appreciate your response.
Okay.
Is there anyone that feels, and by a show of hands, that trials should be postponed until we are through this pandemic? Anyone that feels that way?
Yes. I feel that way.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lavoie. Anyone else that feels that way? In the alternative, let me ask you this. Is there anyone that feels that the wheels of justice should continue to turn while we have this pandemic and that we should use the best technology available to us? Does everyone agree with that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Anyone disagree with that statement? Thank you. How many of you, and I think I know the answer because Judge Henning asked how many are home, how many of you, because of this pandemic, have had to work from home? Okay. And for those that were not working from home before this, that have been forced to work from home because of what's going on, do you all feel that your duties and obligations to your job or to your employers are the same as if you were there in person? You all agree with that by show of hands?
Yes.
Yes.
And similarly, would you agree that your civic duty as a juror would be the same as if you were there in person? Meaning, because we're doing this on Zoom, your civic duty is exactly the same as if we were in person, the same way that you feel that responsibility to your jobs. Does everyone agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone at all disagree with that notion? How many of you, by a show of hands, feel that Zoom jury trials are a better option right now than jury trials live while we go through this pandemic? By a show of hands. Juror number 8, I haven't called on you yet. I see you didn't raise your hands. Can you tell me why you feel that way? Mrs., I think it's Konigosita.
Yes.
So tell me, you did not raise your hand. Why do you disagree with that, or why do you not feel that way?
I think I feel like when we go more, say, serious, or will be more verdict with you or everybody in the same room. I think even the environment, I think it's different, that will change the way that you judge or not.
So you have some concerns about your ability to serve as a juror in this platform because we're not live? Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm concerned about see the persons hear the defendant or hear the real story, and see the evidence by this. And I think a lot of things already work in place, Zoom will work better. And I think digital it's here for us to use. This is now our new normal.
Sure.
Yeah, but a little bit concerned about how we prove and see the evidence to judge, you know.
You have some concerns as it relates to your ability to serve as a juror in this format. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay, and I appreciate your honesty. Well, I'm about out of time, I believe, but I do want to ask.
I was just going to tell you
I know.
that you used 25 of your 20 minutes.
I apologize. I have
That's
one last
okay.
question. Thank you, Judge. One last question, folks. If you had a pending case and it was your case to bring, would any of you have any reluctance to bring your case in this format? By show of hands, does anyone have that feeling? No one? Juror number 19, yes, please.
My concern will be the jury, right? Like, are they technically savvy enough to use the tools the right way? Have the right privacy measures have they been implemented so that the evidence can be seen with protecting my privacy? So I will have those concerns.
Sure. And so would it be fair to say, because you have those concerns, if it were your case, that perhaps that would affect your ability to serve as a juror in someone else's case?
I think this is all being given the right technology and the implementation of the technology in the right way. I think I will be comfortable. That's my that's where my doubt comes in.
Okay, and I appreciate that. Well, as you heard from the judge, I'm out of time. I do want to say sincerely, we all, on behalf of the civil justice system, thank you very, very much for your time. As I said, you truly answered the call, which is a testament to your character and a testament to the importance of the civil justice system. Thank you very much and stay safe.
Your Honor, you're muted.
You're on mute.
Okay, we'll try it again. What I said was thank you to Mr. Harwin, and I assume the defense counsel has some questions that they wish to ask at this time.
That's correct. Thank you, Your Honor.
Go
Thank
ahead.
you, Count. Thank you. Nice to see everybody again today. I first want to reiterate what Judge Henning said and what Mr. Harwin said as well in regards to thanking you all for being here today. We know you all have your own concerns and about everything that's going on. You have your own family issues and work issues and fears and thoughts, and with everything going on, we appreciate you taking the time to be here today. And the only thing I would add to that is that if we're ever going to get through this situation, it's going to be by relying on the foundational structures that the country was built on, and the jury trial is certainly one of them. So it's an extremely important thing that we're doing here today, and you guys are part of it, and we appreciate you agreeing to do that. As I said before, my name is Anthony Quackenbush. I represent Galaxy Gravel along with my co-counsel, Eric Rosen. And what I would encourage you all to do is to speak as much as possible. You've been doing that so far. My goal here is to talk as little as possible myself and to get you to talk so we can get to know you. Right now, what we're trying to do is just determine who might be suitable for this case, for this trial, and who might not be suitable. And the only way we're going to do that is if you talk and express yourself. So I'm going to encourage you to do that. And I'm going to ask you a series of questions to try to get you to do that. So the first thing I want to ask is, you already know that this case involves allegations of injury to a child, to a minor, a 13-year-old boy. So I want to ask, who here has minor children? Just by a show of hands. Can I please get a show of hands? Just who has minor children? And just keep your hands up for 1 minute so I can write those down. All right, thank you. I want to ask, for those of you that have minor children, and Mr. Harwin already sort of dealt with this, but I want to address it myself. And this next question is personal to me because I have a couple of little kids myself, and I had to, take special measures to make sure that my kids were going to be occupied during this trial and that I could focus on the case. So I just want to ask everybody again on the panel, is there anybody, and juror number 12, Ms. Maynard already addressed this, but is there anybody else that just has concerns that, if this trial is going to take a week, let's say, that you're concerned about childcare, making sure that somebody's watching over your children or your kids are occupied? Is there anybody that would be concerned with spending a week with us here for this trial just in terms of childcare, other than juror number 12, who already, Ms. Maynard, who already spoke up? Anybody else have concerns about that? Juror number 5, Mr. Is it Toglin?
One of you will get it right today. Adoptaglon.
Adoptaglon. All right. Next time I'll get it right.
I don't have any children, but I'm in sales. So each day I'm out of work, it affects my sales and my livelihood. So being away for a week could definitely be devastating to my budget for the month.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that, Mr. Adoptaglon, right?
Perfect.
All right. Juror number 15, Miss Profetti? You're on mute, ma'am. Do you mind unmuting yourself?
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm working as a nurse, but I'm a contractor with an agency. So whenever I don't work, I don't have any income. So it's like today. So if I spend a week without going to work, that will be devastating to my budget.
It'd be devastating to what, I'm sorry?
My budget, to my budget, to not work
Your
for
budget.
a week. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks for that. Anybody else that would be concerned about childcare issues if they were?
I'm leaving town tomorrow.
Okay, that's your number 18, Mr. Smith. Is that right? You're
Yes.
leaving town tomorrow, you said? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you for that. Where? How long do you expect to be out of town?
Until the 23rd.
Okay. Thank you for that, Juror Smith. I see juror number 2, Ms. Castillo.
Yes, my son is actually with his dad this week, but he is coming back on Sunday, so I will have him all week, next week.
Okay, so this week you do not have any children in the home, but next week you will.
Correct.
All right. And would that be an issue for you if the case were to go into next week? Would it be an issue for you to?
He's 12, so he's very self-sufficient, but when it comes to like having lunch and stuff like that, I would have to do stuff like that for him.
Okay. If we were able to make accommodations for that, like to give you time to make lunch for your child, would that work? Or is it the kind of thing where you're going to be too distracted to be able to focus on the case?
It should work.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Castillo. Juror number 1, Mr. Baser, I see you raising your hand as well.
Yep, I'm having an outpatient surgical procedure done Monday morning. And then the week after that, I have 3 doctor's appointments.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that, Juror Baser, Mr. Baser. Anybody else concerned about child care issues? I see juror number 23, Ms. Zelhowski. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, I also have 3 children at home, which they're pretty self-sufficient, but it could be problematic in terms of several days. And we are leaving town next Tuesday through Sunday for a small family trip.
Okay. I'm assuming that your 3 children are in the home now?
They are, and I've given them strict orders to not bother me for as long as they need, unless there's an emergency.
Those are the same orders I gave to mine, so I can relate.
Yeah, it's hard having them in the house while we're doing this, you know? They know we're here, so that's challenging.
For sure. If the case were to go, let's say, roughly a week, would that be, doable for you, or do you think it's the kind of thing where it's just going to be impossible to be able to focus on a case for a week with your children in the home?
I think it would be really challenging.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that, Ms. Zahowski. Juror number 9, Mr. Alexander. Is it Mr. Alexander?
Yeah.
Regarding to you guys saying that if the child might go more for a week, I'm a full-time student, meaning that for example today I am missing class and I'm taking 3 classes as of right now. So I wouldn't be able to like physically be able to like do it if it keeps like going on. Also, I am the provider in my house, meaning that if anybody needs me, I'm the only one available to do things. So in reality, if it goes to going even more, then it will be a problem.
Okay. Thank you, juror number 9, Mr. Alexander. Juror number 22, Mr. Jovino, I see you raising your hand. You're on mute, Mr. Jovino.
Thanks. I'm a full-time student too. I got an exam on Wednesday. That's it.
All right. That's the only day you would be unavailable?
Correct.
Okay. Anybody else? And by the way, I'm trying to toggle between the screens to see who's raising their hands, but if I'm missing anybody, speak up. All right. I'm going to move on to my next question. It also involves children. As I said, this particular case involves allegations of injuries to a minor child, a 13-year-old boy. So what I want to ask now is, who here feels like knowing that there are allegations of injuries to a young child, a 13-year-old, you just have extra strong feelings about that, injuries involving children, that you may have more sympathy for a child, extra sympathy for a child than you otherwise would. Who has extra strong feelings about injuries to a minor child? Juror number 15, Miss Profet, am I pronouncing your name right? And you're on mute again, by the way.
Yes, like I said before, I think that for 12, 13-year-old kids to be injured, it needs some type of, I feel like the person, like 50% is on the wrong side. The person who caused that kid to be injured. I have a 12-year-old daughter, and I would fight for her if something like that happened to her.
Okay. And this feeling that you have, which sounds like a strong feeling, does that come from the fact that you're a mother yourself, that you have a young child yourself?
No, it's globally. I think that if I go to some person's house, if I let my daughter goes to someone's house, they are responsible for the safety of my daughter. And if they let something happen, they have to be wrong for that. It's a kid. They are 12, they are 13, they are minors. There should be someone to watch over them. I think, I don't know. I always say that this is what I feel.
Okay. I appreciate you expressing that, Ms. Perfett. And I'll get to the others that had their hands raised. I appreciate you expressing that, and that's what we want you to do. The analogy I always use is this would be kind of like if we were in a cooking competition. I'm a vegetarian, and I just want to use an analogy here. If I was a judge in a cooking competition, and one of the meals on the menu was the surf and turf or something like that, does everybody agree that the fair thing for me to do as the judge would be to raise my hand and say, hey, listen, I'm a vegetarian. I don't like meat. There's no way I'm going to vote for the surf and turf. I'm going to vote for the Brussels sprouts or the asparagus or whatever. Does everybody agree with me that the fair thing to do in that scenario would be to raise my hand and let everybody know that I'm not going to be able to be a neutral juror? Everyone, I see everyone nodding their hands. Everyone agree with that?
Yeah.
So that goes back to you, Ms. Perfett. I want to ask you, given that opinion that belief that you just expressed, do you feel that, try as you might, because I know you're going to try to be neutral, I know you're not going to try to lean one direction or another in the case, but do you feel like, given that strong feeling that you just expressed, that try as you might, because of that feeling you have, you may be leaning in one direction or another in this case?
I'm not saying that. I will try to be fair, but thinking that it's like the example that you just gave, you're not a minor, but a child will forget that is allergic to something. I will try to be fair, but it's a child that has been injured.
Okay. Is there, and again, I appreciate that. the fact that it was a child that was injured, and that really we can't get into much more of the detail than that, but knowing that, is there at least a chance that you may lean in one direction or another in this case? Again, without knowing any of the facts of the case, just knowing that it was a minor that was injured, is there a chance that may cause you to lean in one direction or another as we sit here now?
I will have to listen to whatever the person has to say to explain how he let the child be injured without him protecting the child. And then I'll try to be fair, I think. I'll try to be fair.
All right. And without knowing what my client's going to say as far as, how the child was injured right now, because we can't get into that, do you feel like you're right in the middle between the two sides, or do you feel like you might be leaning in one direction or another?
I'm leaning a little bit on the child. I'm sorry to say that. I feel like, yeah, yes, I'm leaning a little bit on the child side.
Okay. Again, we appreciate your honesty, Ms. Perfett. That's really that's all we're looking for here today. Who else feels like Ms. Perfett? And I see some raised hands. Just by show of hands, who feels like Ms. Perfett, juror number 15? It's because this involved an injury to a child that you just have particularly strong feelings about that. Juror, by show of hands, and I'll get to if you have strong feeling about that. Do you mind raising your hand now? Strong feeling about injuries to children. All right, juror number 6, Mr. Fisher, I see you raising your hand. Tell me about your feelings on that topic.
How are you today?
Good, how are you
All
doing?
right. Well, as a father of 2 daughters, and of course they're adults now, but at an age of, let's say, from 2 to 4, I always had, well, I still even keep an eye on them when they go to the ladies' room and say, all right, let's see, they've been 3 minutes, Mom, go check on them, make sure they're okay. But as you go from 6 years and down, the adult should be there taking and looking after their child. So going to a 12, 13-year-old boy, I have plenty of nephews who, as a father, you can't keep 3 eyes on them all the time. And before you know it, they're gone. But where were the parents at that point? Where were they watching their own child? But yes, having an infant or having a 2 or 3-year-old, yeah, it's like, I feel bad for them because they don't know any better. You don't want your own child hurt, and then you feel bad for another child. It's like, oh, that poor kid. But a 13-year-old, where was his parents in all of this? Did they know where he was?
Okay. So same question that I asked to Ms. Perfett, those feelings that you have, which sound like they're strong feelings, are they going to cause you, try as you might, not to allow them to affect you, but is there at least a chance that they may cause you to lean in one direction or another at the onset of the case without hearing any of the facts?
Depends on the evidence. We don't have the evidence in front of us to make a decision. So I couldn't even answer that.
Okay. So right now, as we sit here now, without hearing any of the facts of the case, you're not leaning in one direction or another?
No.
Okay.
Well, I'm leaning more in the way of, if he's a 13-year-old kid, we were all 13. I was injured multiple times as a kid. It's like, that's part of being a kid. So it's more towards, okay, so here you got this guy. And one of the things, my wife and I went to Home Depot looking at no trespassing signs. Like, which no trespassing do you purchase? And where do you put it? Does it have to have a state statute on it for no trespassing? So I don't know those answers. And it's like, and of course I talked to someone who says, no, as long as you have something posted, you're okay. But then again, as a 13-year-old boy, does he even pay attention to that? I'm 61. I sometimes don't even pay attention to certain things. So how is a 13-year-old going to even see it if he even had the proper signage up?
Okay. Again, those sound like strong feelings. Is there a chance that without hearing any of the facts of the case, you're maybe leaning in one direction or another?
I don't know. I can't tell until I see the evidence and know what's there, but I'm leaning towards the kid's at fault. More like a
Okay.
55-45.
Okay. All right, but you're saying that you need to see the evidence before
Correct.
fully deciding on that? Okay.
Correct.
Would you, I mean, do you feel like you'll be able to reserve judgment until you see the evidence and you'll fairly evaluate the evidence or not?
Yeah, I think I could do that.
Okay. All right, thank you for expressing that, juror number 6, Mr. Fisher. Juror number
Thank you.
2, Ms. Castillo, I saw you raising your hand as well, didn't you, that you had strong feelings about children who were injured?
Yes.
Can you tell
I
me
guess
more?
I would, the same thing, I would need to see the evidence, but I feel that if there is anything on the property that could hurt somebody, there should be precautions taken by the owner.
Okay. All right, and again, we can't get too much into the details of the case, but we do know that we can tell you the child was injured on the property. Same question I asked to the others. Your feeling, sounds like you have strong feelings about that. Might they cause you, right now, without hearing any of the facts of the case, to lean in one direction more than the other?
Honestly, I'm probably leaning more towards the child right now with not knowing all the evidence yet.
Okay. All right, anybody else have, thank you, Ms. Castillo. Anybody else have strong feelings about injuries to children other than the jurors that I've already spoken to? By show of hands, anybody else have strong feelings? Juror number 19, is it Mr.? I'm probably not going to get your name right. Urunaga, is that
Yeah,
right?
perfect. Yeah,
All
you got it
right.
right.
Good.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm in the same boat as Mr. Fisher. So I'll wait to learn the evidence to know all the details, but I tend to think of property rights and property owners and also their rights, and so I am not really. I'm more leaning towards the property owners in this case, but I agree with Mr. Fisher's concerns.
All right, and I'll ask you the same question I asked Mr. Fisher. Do you feel like that you're going to be able to reserve judgment and take a look at all the evidence and make a decision only then, or do you feel like you're going to be viewing the case with through a viewpoint that you're leaning in one direction more than the other?
No, I think I can be fair. I can look at the evidence and the details and make a judgment at that point. All I'm saying is that at this point right now, I'm leaning slightly towards that, the property owner side.
Okay, without hearing any of the facts of the case.
Without knowing anything else, correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Muranaga. Anybody else have strong feelings about injuries to children, other than the jurors I've already spoken to? Anybody else feel that way? And I'm scrolling through to see if I see any raised hands. I don't. If I'm missing somebody, then let me know. One other thing I wanted to ask about is juror number 15, Ms. Profet, had made a comment earlier, and I thank her for speaking again, that she felt like if you are and I'm paraphrasing here, but if you're a business owner and somebody gets in, if you let somebody else in, then you're going to be responsible for that. That if somebody else gets on your property, that you should be responsible. Does anybody else agree with Ms. Profet that if you're a business owner, it's just your responsibility to keep everybody off the property, and if somebody gets on, automatically you're going to be responsible for any injuries caused? By show of hands, anybody else agree with that? All right. I want to ask a couple of specific questions for specific jurors, and I'll wrap up because I know I'm running short on time here. Just Ms. Maynard, juror number 12, you had mentioned that you were familiar with Galaxy Gravel, I believe. Did you say that? That you drove by there, I think?
No, I said Nob Hill. I didn't say Galaxy Gravel.
Okay. All right. So you're not familiar with my client. You're just familiar with that area. Is that right?
No, I
Ms.
just
Maynard?
said Nob Hill.
Okay.
Like,
All right. Thank you.
where it was, I just said Nob Hill.
Okay. Thank you. juror number 21, Miss Yezbek, I believe it was, you had said that you don't feel like a trespasser should recover, that a trespasser shouldn't be entitled to compensation. Let me ask you, if the judge tells you that the law is that in certain circumstances, a trespasser by law is able to recover compensation, would you be able to follow the law? Would you be able, and I know you have feelings about that, which you expressed, but if the judge tells you that the law is that in certain circumstances, a trespasser can recover, would you be able to set aside those feelings you have and follow the law and judge the facts by the evidence in the case?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So you're not saying that you'd never be able to award compensation to a trespasser. If the judge says that in certain circumstances, a trespasser can get compensation, you'd be able to follow that?
I guess I could.
Okay. And then last but not least, I wanted to ask juror number 5, and I hope that I corrected your name before. I hope I can get it right twice in a row, but Doptoglin, is that right?
Close enough.
All right.
It's
Hey,
Doptoglon. That's okay.
Doptoglin. I'm Quackenbush, so
Yeah.
so I can relate. You had mentioned, you brought up the issue of the trespassing sign, and you said you had feelings about that. Again, I can't get into all of the facts of the case right now, but I just wanted to ask you, if you're selected to be a juror on this case, do you feel like you will be able to look at all the factors of the case, why the boy was on the property? Do you feel like you'd be able to look at all the factors and again, judge the facts of the case as you hear them?
Yeah, I would think so.
You do? Okay. All right. So the trespassing sign isn't going to be an end-all be-all for you. You're going to...
I can use the same answer the other jurors gave you, and I'm going to have to take a look at the evidence and make my decision from there.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Well, Your Honor, I have more questions I can ask, but I want to be respectful of the court's time, and so I will cede the floor to Your Honor. Thanks again for everybody's time, and again, we appreciate your being here. It's an important thing that you're doing, and we appreciate it.
If there are other questions that you want to get to, you can, but that comes off of the time that we obviously have to question them afterwards.
No, Your Honor, I will cede the floor to Your Honor. I've asked the questions I need to at this time. Thank
All
you.
right. Then what I would ask, Orlando, can you put me and the attorneys, please, in a breakout room? Well, you all want to talk amongst yourselves first, or no? Do the plaintiffs want to speak to each other and defense counsel want to speak to each other?
In the previous mock trial, the way we did it, we put the juries in the jury room and we left the attorneys in the Zoom meeting. Do you want to do it that way?
Okay, that's fine.
All right, I'm going to move the jurors into the jury room then.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's just going to take us a few minutes. It's a good opportunity for you to take a break. If you want to get a cup of coffee or a cold drink out of your refrigerators, that would be great. Use the restroom if you want to, and I will try and keep this at a minimum because we do want to make sure that we have the time to question you all. But
I would ask that the jurors I would ask the judge that the jurors not leave the meeting, that I will send them to a breakout room and then I will bring them back.
Correct. Do not get off of Zoom. He'll just move you into another room. And they can't talk to each other in that room, can they?
They can, Judge.
Okay, time for another instruction.
Just like if they were in a jury break room.
Okay, time for another instruction. You are not permitted to discuss the case amongst yourselves until the conclusion of the case. After you've heard the arguments from the lawyers, the instructions by me, and all of the evidence. So
Judge,
when you are in the
there's a juror not in the Zoom. Number 22 is missing.
Mr. Yavino left.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he anticipated.
All right. The rest of you will be able to tell him if he starts to talk to you. You cannot discuss the case. You cannot call anybody at this point during the break, okay? You cannot have talked to anybody about the case that you're hearing. We're going to keep it the same as if you were in the courthouse. God knows there is enough going on right now for you all to have something to talk about, even though we don't have sports at the moment. So you all can do that or take the break that you want. And when we're ready to get you out of the break room, we will do that. And as I said, we will keep the time to a minimum here. Thank you.
All right, I'm sending all the jurors to the jury break room.
Okay, and when you all are ready, I am ready to listen to your strikes and challenges. I usually start with the plaintiff on the odd numbers, defense on the even numbers, going back and forth until we have a potential panel of 6. So if you would like to proceed that in that fashion, I'll start with the plaintiff as to juror number 1.
I'll accept juror number 1, Your Honor.
To the defense?
We will accept juror number 1 at this time, Your Honor.
Okay, number 2 to the defense?
Oh, I'm sorry, Your Honor. As to juror number 2, Ms. Castillo, I believe that is, we're going to move to strike her for cause. I'd asked the question about sympathy for children who had injuries, and she said she felt like she did have that, and that at this time she may be leaning towards the defense.
No objection, Your Honor.
Stricken for cause. Number 3 to the plaintiff.
Plaintiff would accept.
And the defense will accept, Your Honor.
Number 4 to the defense.
Defense would accept.
Plaintiff.
Accept.
5 to the plaintiff.
I would move for cause on Mr. Dopteglon, who said that the defendant has a slight advantage because of his feelings about trespass signs. That's pursuant to the Club West versus Trapegas case, where if a party expresses that one side has an advantage over the other, however slight, they should be excused.
I may respond, Your Honor.
Of course.
The response would be, as I was questioning him, I asked him, look, would you consider all of the factors, not just the trespassing sign, but all the factors in the case to determine whether the plaintiff, the minor plaintiff, should have been on the property or not? And he said he would. The trespassing sign was one factor. Of course it is. But he said that he would consider everything. He said he would reserve judgment until seeing all the evidence in the case.
Response from plaintiff's counsel.
Your Honor, the rehabilitation, I think, was insufficient because he did express that he has an absolute doubt as well, that he does, that I would have to overcome one of his preconceived notions in order to prevail in this case. I think the case law dealing with the fact that Mr. Quackenbush was able to extract a commitment to him with leading questions is insufficient to rehabilitate a juror based on the Price versus State case, which is 538 Southern 2nd, 486.
Thank you. Quackenbush, you feel that you led him to that?
No, I do not, Your Honor. I think if anything, it was plaintiff's counsel that was leading him to say that the trespassing sign would cause him to lean in one direction or another. I mean, look, the trespassing sign is obviously evidence in this case. The no trespassing sign is obviously evidence in the case that's going to be favorable to the defense. And if you just look at that one thing, that one piece of evidence, with blinders on, then of course somebody would lean in one direction or another. But there's many factors in the case, and I think he said, I don't think it was a leading question. I think he said that he would consider everything. The trespassing sign wasn't, I think the way I asked it was, is the trespassing issue an all or nothing issue for you? And he said no, that it wasn't.
Challenge for cause is denied. Do you wish to strike him at this time or wait?
Your Honor, I would exercise a peremptory challenge for Mr. Dopteglon.
Thank you. Number 6 to the defense.
The defense will accept, Your Honor.
Plaintiff.
Plaintiff would move for cause on Mr. Fisher, who testified on multiple occasions that he was leaning more in the way of the defense, that he's leaning towards his quote was leaning towards the kid is at fault, and acknowledged that he came to that determination without hearing evidence. Although on leading rehabilitation, he acknowledged that he thinks he can wait to hear the evidence. Obviously, that does not remove the potential reasonable doubt as to his fairness and impartiality. He also, I think based again on the Club West case, that that is specifically the circumstance that would provide him being stricken. I think he even quantified the fact that I would have to overcome a preconceived notion of his by saying that he was leaning towards the defense favor 55 to 45.
In Your Honor, similar argument to what was to what I made to the last year. Upon questioning, Mr. Fisher said that he felt he could set aside that feeling that he had and judge the case as the evidence came in. He would reserve judgment, is what he said.
Challenge for cause is granted. Number 7 to the plaintiff.
Plaintiff would accept, Your Honor.
Mr. Harris to the defense. Ms. Harris, I'm sorry.
The defense would accept, Your Honor.
Number 8 to the defense.
The defense would accept, Your Honor.
Plaintiff.
Your Honor, the plaintiff would move for cause, juror number 8, who stated that she has concerns about her ability to serve as a juror in this format. The case law suggests that if there is a reasonable doubt that the as to the patient, as to the jurors' mental status or status to serve as a juror, they should be excluded.
Your Honor, I would just respond. I don't think she gave, unless I missed, I don't believe she gave any specific reason that she was concerned about the format. I mean, look, the truth is everybody's concerned about the format. If anybody said that they have absolutely no concerns about the format, they wouldn't be telling the truth. She didn't say that she didn't think she could be a fair juror, or she could hear the evidence or anything like that.
She went on for a bit, I believe, about how she doesn't like Zoom, and I'm concerned with that in this type of proceeding. So the challenge for cause is granted. Number 9 to the plaintiff.
Plaintiff would accept.
And the defense would accept, Your Honor.
Number 10 to the defense.
Your Honor, the defense would accept, except at this time, Your Honor, the defense would like to use one of its peremptory strikes and strike juror number 1, Mr. Baser.
Okay. And what about number 10?
Number 10, we accept, Your Honor.
10 to the plaintiff.
Accept.
11 to the plaintiff.
Accept.
To the defense.
And the defense will accept as well, Your Honor.
That's a potential panel, gentlemen. 3, 4, 7, 9, 10, 11.
Plaintiff accepts, Your Honor.
And the defense accepts as well, Your Honor.
Okay, going once, going twice. Have we got ourselves a panel? I don't think we need an alternate.
What are the numbers again, Judge? 3, 4.
3, 4, 7, 9, 10, 11.
All right. They're coming
Okay, Orlando, can you please bring them in?
in all the way. They're all on the way. All right, I believe they're all in.
Okay, give me 1 second. Let me.
Mr. Montanak, if you can pivot your camera. There you go. Thank you. Judge, they're all in and they all have video.
Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we've been able to select a jury from the group that we have questioned. I am going to name the 6 jurors who will be the members of the jury that would try the case. The remainder of you will be excused from jury duty. However, as you know, what I would like to do after I announce these names is we will go into the question and answer period. So everybody, please stay where you are. If you are, I know that I asked you at the beginning, and I ask you again now, if there is anyone who does not want to participate in the question and answer period, that's fine. I appreciate the work that you have done at this time. But for those of you who are willing to stay on and help us hone the skills for this type of trial, we certainly all would appreciate that. And so the jury would consist of Ms. Connolly, Ms. de Montagnac, Ms. Harris, Mr. Legombre Falchetti, Mr. Longo, and Ms. Lucent. And the remainder of you otherwise at this time would be excused.